session.
Good evening. I hereby call this regular meeting of the Nacogdoches Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that a quorum is present, and notice of this meeting was posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act. Please remember that items do not have to be taken in the order shown on the agenda. And I will ask you now at this time to turn your cell phones to some type of silent mode. Thank you for joining us tonight. The board will now conduct an executive closed session to discuss the items posted on our agenda pursuant to the following provisions of the Texas Open Meeting Act and as allowed by Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.129. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any actions the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in open session. It is now 5:01. Thank you. board is now reconvening into the open session, and the time is 6 o'clock. I've asked Pastor Pitcock if she would give the invocation on tonight.
Let us pray. Holy One, thank you for gathering us this evening. We pray for Les and his healing and all those that we love in need of healing. Help us to see clearly the needs of our neighbors and ways that we can help each other. We pray for safety in our community, that we support and encourage all those who are employed by NISD. And may this meeting be one of respect and honor. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Tonight, our pledges to the flag will come from the Regay Elementary School. Miss Julia Wells and her students will be leading us in our pledges. Ms. Wells.
Are we on? All right. Good evening, President Irvin, board members, Superintendent Trujillo. We have brought an awesome group of students with us tonight, and I'm going to let Mr. Hampton introduce you to what they do and who they are, and tell you a little bit about them.
Good evening. My name is Coleman Tyler Hampton. I'm the 4th grade math and science teacher at Regay Elementary. Flag and Safety Patrol has not happened since COVID. As you know, it got a little crazy. However, I'm proud to be a part of that this year. Flag and Safety Patrol has to do with teaching our young kids discipline and leadership in their community. And I am happy to introduce the Flag and Safety Patrol.
Zeke Bratcher, 5th grade.
Carper Pitcock, 5th grade.
William Satir, 5th grade.
Amy Hernandez, 5th grade.
Money Edwards, 5th grade.
Lamaya Nobles, 5th grade.
Aaron Stevens, 5th grade.
Channing Martin, 5th grade.
Sebastian Roman, 5th grade.
Keontra Nobles, 5th grade. Alexi Clement, 5th grade.
Egypt Briscoe, 5th grade. Christian Cook, 5th grade.
Great.
Could you do me a favor before you go?
Thank you.
Before you move? Oh, okay. Oh, facing that way.
What are they going to do that?
Today I will do more than I have to do. Treat others how I like to be treated and do my very best. I will behave safely, respectfully, cooperatively, responsibly, and have a great day.
Ms. Wells, I just didn't want them to go without the board first, because saying some few words to the kids, I didn't want them to just start marching off before. Just wanted to make sure if they wanted to say anything to the kiddo.
Awesome, guys. Awesome job.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
We're so proud of you.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wells.
I know we have moms and dads out there, or family. Are you out there? Can you please stand so we can see you?
Thank you, parents.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Our teachers also, thank you for supporting our kids.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My kid has to come back in here.
We will now hear the good news from the district from our
Harper has to
superintendent,
come back in.
Dr. Trujillo.
Yes. Well, another year, another National Merit semifinalist for Nacogdoches High School. Nacogdoches High School senior Vivian Nay Birding we learned last month she had been selected as a semifinalist, one of roughly 16,000 kids across the nation. It's the second straight year NHS has a National Merit semifinalist. Vivian is ranked number 1 in her class of 2023, and out of 396 seniors at NHS. The National Merit semifinalists are required to meet a number of requirements before being considered as a finalist. Those qualifiers will be announced in February. The National Merit Program begins with roughly 1.5 million students and was pared down to 16,000 students in September. In February, that 15,000 finalists will be announced before the 7,250 merit scholarship winners are named in May. Additionally, 2 more NHS seniors were named commended students by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. Holden Kelly and Noah Satir placed among the top 50,000 students nationwide by taking the 2021 preliminary SAT National Merit Qualifying Test. Remember, when you hear these numbers, it's out of 1.5 million students. It's a big deal to have our kids named in that company. Also, NHS swimmer Ava Whitaker set 2 new school records last month in her first official meet with the Dragon Swimmers. Ava moved into the district this year and broke school records at the meet in Longview on September 24th. The Dragon swim season is gearing up. They host the Dragon's Invitation on Saturday, October 29th, and will host the White House in Hudson in a tri-meet on November the 10th. Way to go to Ava, and a big way to go to always powerful swim team from NHS and the work they all do. Students from the high school's Instructional Practices in Education and Training course, a CTE program that leads the educational aid certification, are getting experience at Nettie Marshall Early Childhood Center. Part of the course requirements is spending time working in the classroom with the youngest of our students. They help out in the classroom and other courses such as that. And after the high school, these students obtain the Educational Aid 1 certification, and they can work in a variety of occupations within the school system. So we're real proud of our students that are involved with this particular program. With that, President Irvin, that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Helio. We didn't receive any request to address the board for public comment on tonight. Are there any members of the BESL department present? Would you stand, please? On behalf of the board, we want to just thank you for your generosity, for the gift. Thank y'all so much. Thank you. We will now move to our consent agenda. Let's remove from the consent agenda. All items listed will be acted on with one motion. If there's a board member who wishes to discuss an item on the agenda separately, please indicate the agenda letter, and it'll be set aside for further discussion and a separate vote at this time.
Mr. President, I would like to pull item 6B1, budget amendment, from the consent agenda for discussion and separate voting.
Thank you, Mr. Coach Rashid. This time we would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus 6B1 budget amendments.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as changed.
I'll second.
Thank you. It was motion by Ms. Winslow, second by Ms. Apt. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposers? The motion is carried unanimous. Questions
Mr. President, before I ask questions, I would like to say I have a total trust in NISD's business office, their management, and their method of operations. And NISD annual financial report indicates their professionalism. Personally, my knowledge of a business operation and finance is very limited, to the point that only can write a check without being insufficient account. And I often read a book which has had sad ending, which is my checkbook. However, my question is, we have moved $100,000 budget from general fund for personal, I guess is curricular and extracurricular activity at this time. My question is this budget is for extracurricular activities and co-curricular activities combined together, or is divided, or how does it come to that point?
Thank you, Ms. Barber.
Good evening, President Irvin, board members, Dr. Trujillo. So this is our sixth annual draw from fund balance of our $100,000 draw that we do for uniforms and band instruments. They are on a rotation basis, on a 5-year rotation basis. This year is athletics. The other 4 are band instruments, band uniforms, cheer and drill uniforms, and fine arts. Fine arts is more broad on, based on what they need. For instance, curtains, theater curtains were purchased last year for fine arts.
Okay,
So it's extracurricular, co-curricular.
Okay, my next question is, before the season starts and we go through a budget workshop, do they allocate those money for that purpose, or we don't? Or we wait till the middle of the year?
We wait to see how our fund balance fared in the previous year. So we're wrapping up our audit for the 21-22.
Yes.
We have a surplus in our fund balance, and that's when we determine we can pull out of fund balance for these purposes.
Okay. And currently, has anyone requested for any part of that money as of now?
No. They don't request it. This is something that I allocate out
So it's
based
just a guess or possible to that amount?
It's just a flat amount, $100,000, that's given on an annual basis, if the fund balance allows, and the fund balance has allowed for the past, this is our 6th year.
You know,
Now, Coach Washid, if there's an adjustment, for instance, that needs to be made, if we give it to, for instance, I can see fine arts, because now we have it all the way down to the elementary grades, that if the allocation is there, and when we go in and visit with our fine arts director and determine that there is a greater need or less of a need, then we would adjust that or increase it, but not before coming to the board to consider it, to make a recommendation that we pull that. We just gets as a baseline of where that we would arrive to it. So it might change if, for instance, there's a greater need with a specific department, possibly. I don't know if that answers that question with the flat rate that she's addressing.
no, I, as a former school employee, coach, and in athletic, I know there are some unexpected expenses arise. And if this budget is able to cover those for a purpose of athletics and extracurricular activities.
We'll have to, you're unable to answer that question, so we have to have our athletic director come up and answer that question. Mr. Martin is our athletic director here.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, if I may yield the floor to Coach Darren Coleman, our athletic director.
Before he comes, I have one. I am really slow about it because I think you've said this 3 times and I'm still not getting it. So is it that you said it's on a rotation? So is this supposed to last for 5 years and then the athletics comes back on rotation?
normally, uniforms are not replaced on a yearly basis.
Okay,
And so we've come up with a rotation of about every 5 years, they get allocated $100,000 for
okay.
uniform
So
replacement.
this is supposed to last like
Yes.
5 years? Okay,
Right,
good.
right.
I wanted to make sure I was understanding
But they don't
that.
have 5 years to spend it.
No.
They spend it all in this year.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like, oh, we're going to spend this in 1 year. No, this is supposed to fit the need for uniforms for 5 years?
Yes, and if
Unless
they have a
something-
need for uniforms in between, then that's when they need to pull from their own
Budget. thing.
budget,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, that
This is
helps.
above and beyond.
Okay, thank you.
So there is a possibility that you'll come again next year and ask for another 100,000.
I will come next year for another 100,000, but
Yeah,
it will
I
be,
just
I
wanted to-
believe
I want to Miss App to understand that.
Right, it will
Yeah, but it'll be for
And-
band and,
Yes,
yeah,
I
those
believe
people.
band
Yeah.
uniforms will be next.
Right,
Don't
okay.
quote me on that, but I believe they're next.
Sure.
And just to be clear, if there's a priority over the uniforms or other things, you look at that first, right? Or,
No, this was established 6 years ago that this rotation would happen. Now, if anybody in the school district, if they have a need, at any time, they come to me and they ask, and we see what we can do.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess
Yeah,
that's
that
my
helps.
my original question was, at this time, nobody had requested anything. However, we have it in case they request for equipment or uniforms or so on.
Nobody has requested
Okay,
any.
that was my question.
So are your questions answered?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but we probably will need Coach.
Okay, there's no need for Coach Almond.
Aw,
No.
he made the trip and everything.
Unless you
Sorry,
have
Coach.
something prepared.
Just
How'd you have to
for
take extra
for
steps?
everybody's knowledge and myself to be, recall, normally before school starts, we put a budget, request a certain amount of budget for each individual sport, and the sum of that money presented to the budget workshop, and everybody, every sports gets their requested amount. Am I correct?
I mean, Coach Almond, you'll need to come to the microphone for our audience and,
okay, so you want me to answer that question on request?
Just clarify for, Coach, I think we are on the same page, but for public to know and audience as well, every sports presents you a list of the expenses that they're going to have, such as uniform, officials, meals, so on. Transportation is going to be separated, correct?
Well, it is part of our budget.
It is put in the budget.
Yes.
And during my time, it was not, that's why.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I had.
Yes, and so as far as uniforms go, you know, it is a big cost for every program that we have, middle school and high school. That would be equivalent to like instrument costs in some ways, or band uniforms and other. So, but with, just like other programs, we have other important costs and needs that come up. But where this helps us is where we typically budget for or go to booster clubs for uniforms. We don't budget for uniforms because we don't have budgets big enough to pay for them because they're very expensive. And most of our teams, when they buy a uniform, it's not just one uniform, right? So most of our teams are required to have home and away uniforms, and so that ends up being 2 sets of uniforms. And just to put it in perspective, like one set of football uniforms on average, for an average size, say 45 roster football team, is about $17,000. When you go throughout all of our athletic teams, and of course, it's not just one team. Yeah. You've got JV uniforms, freshman uniforms, all that. So it adds up very quickly. And I was sort of aware of this when I first got here 4 years ago.
Yes.
I think we were on kind of the back end of that rotation, and we've circled back around. And so where it helps us, though, is if we're able to get this money to use for uniforms, and it frees up money for other things that some may see as more of a priority, but it frees that money up, so we're still able to use it.
Yes. For those who don't know much, you also have to have money to inspect the helmets into the air,
Yeah.
and that's a cost.
Coach, I'm just curious, when you speak about a uniform, that only includes the jersey and the pants, doesn't include the pads that go in them and the shoulder pads? That's all
correct.
separate?
Just the, yes, sir. That's just the uniform, usually a top and a bottom with all sports, either shorts top or pants top.
President Irving, just for the sake of the public, because we're talking football, and I want to make sure that the public understands, when our athletic director is looking for uniforms, just real quickly, if you allow me, boys basketball, girls basketball, baseball, football, boys golf, girls golf, boys soccer, girls soccer, softball, boys swimming and diving, girls swimming and diving, boys tennis, girls tennis, boys track, girls track, boys track, girls track, middle school, volleyball, high school, volleyball, middle school, boys water polo, girls water polo, athletic trainers. So just for the sake of the community, most folks might know that we're talking about shoulder pads and everything else, but some folks out there don't go to the football game, they go to swim meets or they go to golf games. So it's the uniforms that go across the whole athletic that we're talking about. So wanted to make sure, President, that our community knows that that's what this conversation is involving, is the spectrum of.
Coach Allman, you would say if we have ill-fitting uniforms because the kids are different every year, that when we re-outfit and have new uniforms, this is really a safety factor for those people that are participating, right?
It is.
We don't want rip-away jerseys like Earl Campbell used to have. We want something that will fit them and keep them safe. And so that's part of this whole problem, is a safety and health for our students, right?
It is part of it, and one of the special things that it creates too is just, we want to put our kids in the best stuff we can put them in because it makes them feel good, and it's something that we do pass down and use for 5 years. So an example of that currently is there are football uniforms that the varsity wore 5 years ago are currently being worn at McMichael Middle School. And these uniforms, really in all sports, but these uniforms are made with a lot of spandex, elastic, stretchy, and so believe it or not, we couldn't believe how well they fit our middle school kids. And but they are well made, and they get more expensive every year. And that's not just with football, like Dr. Trujillo said. That's with everything. Baseball uniforms, softball uniforms. The price of everything has gone up, and that's maybe the biggest price increase in the last few years has been those uniforms that are made by the people who make the better versions.
Thank you.
Also, school pays for the letter jackets as well.
We do, yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
But not out of this budget. I just want to make sure folks are clear.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Are you good?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. The chair will now entertain a motion for consent 6B1 that was pulled from the agenda.
I move the board approve the item 6B1.
I'll second.
It has been moved by Coach Fosh, second by Ms. Apt. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried unanimously. Tonight we have two reports, starting with our bilingual program, the annual evaluation. Dr. Susedo.
Hi. Good evening, President Irving, board members, and Superintendent Trujillo. My name is Evelyn Sauceda. I'm the Director of Bilingual in ESL, and today I'm here to present the annual report. And some of the things that we're going to cover tonight are going to include the academic progress of our English learners, but also the proficiency level that they have acquired based on TELPAS. Also, I'm going to talk to you about the students that have actually been exited from the program because they have actually met both linguistic and academic needs, and also the professional development and strategies that we do to support our students district-wide. And lastly, I'm going to talk to you about the exception and ESL waivers for this year. I'm going to start with some numbers. So right now, we have a total of 1,588 identified total emergent bilingual students in the district. Just to have a perspective, this is about 28% of the total student population. When we think about identification for emerging bilingual students, we just don't think about their home language survey being a language other than English. We include testing and evaluation, but also coordination and planning for every single one of our students. This year, we also have 5 of total migrant students, and these are students that come to us periodically because their parents work in different migratory jobs. We also have identified until now 43 total immigrant students, and this is a different classification because they have different needs. And these are students that have been here in the country for less than 3 years and have been born outside the U.S. We have also identified this year 67 newcomer students who have been also in the U.S. for less than 3 years, and they have also, some of them have higher academic gaps and linguistic gaps depending on their past. We have a total of 200 emerging bilingual monitor students. Those are students that have successfully exited the program. We monitor those students for 5 years. So every year you will see those numbers being decreased. Last year, we have a total of 8 reclassified students that were able to exit our program. This is another projection of the numbers, so you can actually see the growth of our emerging bilingual students over the years. The first table, which is the yellow table, it only has our growth from 2009 all the way to 2018, and you can see how our need to support our students has increased tremendously. The second table actually shows more information, which is the numbers that I previously presented, which is the total of emerging bilinguals, migrant students, immigrant students, and monitors and reclassified students. One interesting fact is that if you see in 2019-2020, the reclassified number increased dramatically to 102. And then you see the other years as just 8. And you might wonder why. One of the things that year, it was after COVID year, and the state changed their reclassification criteria, making it more easier for students to reclassify. So that's the reason why. If you see at the very end, there's a little star saying for 2022, 2023, that is just until this day. The other numbers is all the way up to the end of the year. So I have to present what we have now, but those numbers will definitely change at the end of the year as we're having more students that are coming in throughout the year, but then also we will have until the end of the year the students that will be reclassifying our program. Another interesting fact is the languages that are spoken in our district, identified until today. There's 2 questions in the home language survey. One is, obviously, what is the student language at home, but also the student that the language speaks, and that's why you see a little bit of difference. But I think that is very interesting to see the different languages that we have in our student population.
Can I interrupt you here, or do you want me to save it for the end?
Go ahead.
Okay, I just have a quick question.
Yes.
But first, let me just say thank you, thank you, thank you. You know how I'm always harping on thank you for this, this information of all the many languages of our students, and now we can see them. So my question is, amidst all this, why is there other languages?
So you see other languages because they might have they are not actually, they might be just different language that our program that we use doesn't identify. They might be like colloquial languages. They're even, for example, in Mexico, we have other colloquial languages that are not other than Spanish, but they are not per se identified as a language.
Okay, and I didn't, okay. That answered, thank you.
Doctora, while we stopped right here, to help people understand, when we have 1,600 in this program out of 6,000, that means 1 out of every 4 students is in this program.
Yes, sir.
So if we line them up, just go 1, 2, 3, 4, you're taking care of 1/4 of all of our students, and we thank you for it.
Awesome.
That's right. Thank you. The next section is going to be the academic progress of our students. Something important that I have to highlight here, it is that, and in this following slides, we're only looking at our emerging bilinguals in isolation. In previous board meetings, we actually had the opportunity to see their progress within everyone else. Something that I want to also mention is that whenever we're looking, number one, we do like to see them in isolation because they have very specific needs. But at the same time, I want to say that all the progress and all the support that the students receive, we do it as a team. Because it's not just myself and the team working, it's the teaching and learning, it's collaborating with special education, with CTE, with the principals, with data. So this right here, it is the growth for reading and the different grade levels. You will see percentages, and in the bottom it shows like the students that have limited growth, expected growth, and accelerated growth. Obviously, the questions that we ask ourselves is, obviously, what is the requirement for those exams? But most importantly, what are we going to do for the ones that didn't make the growth that we expected? This is for math, for the different grade levels. Another thing that we also take into consideration is that those tables, even though show numbers and show percentages, the state, whenever we do our data, the state does not actually says, we have from those students maybe 20 that have, failing percentage because maybe they are newcomers. So there's a lot of things and factors that we have to consider when even looking at the students that are not making progress. Is it because of language? Is it because of academic support? We look into all those things. This is the progress by growth for English for upper grade secondary. Just as this is one of our areas of focus, just because just as we saw previously that just the English EOCs are really, really difficult. They are really a challenge for our emerging bilinguals. Another important factor that I have to mention is that for some reason our newcomer students, the population of our newly arrived newcomer students is really high at secondary level. So we also take that into consideration. The second 2 tables is to compare the overall growth of the district for the Texas English Language Proficiency Assessment Committee, which is the TELPAS. We have the 2021 and 2022 year. This is really exciting. I want you to look at the first 3 numbers because it shows the actual numbers of students who took the test. But then, let me see if I can do that. And then right here in the last, it says 29% of 28. But then you can actually compare the growth that they have. So overall, in our district, we actually have seen a growth from last year of our students going from 29% to 32%. Also, the numbers of students that took the TELPAS this year, actually last year, increased. If you see those, I'm going to say rows, dark blue, the light blue, the kind of baby blue, and the pink. Those are areas that we also pay a lot of attention. We want to see in this the students that had advanced high, because if you remember, or one of the important factors is that TELPAS students are being rated in beginner, intermediate, advanced, and advanced high. So the state takes into consideration how many students actually scored advanced high. Also the students that improved 2 levels. Another factor to take into consideration is that we're talking about 4 different areas. We look at listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So not only look at who actually made advance in one, but all 4 different areas. We also look at the ones that are improved one level, and we focus our efforts on the one that didn't make any improvement. In the next slide, we also look at the TOPAS alternate summary, which is, this is the language test that is given to the students in special education. As you can see, we also excited about the progress, even though in the bottom pink you see that 8 students didn't improve. You see, however, in 2002, 10 students made progress compared to 2 students in 2001, which is great. So that is also some of the improvements that we have seen. Now, the critical question is, what are we doing to actually support the entire district? Because as I mentioned before, we have our emerging bilingual students spread out through the district. So every campus, every grade level, every subject has different needs. So one of the things that we started 2 years ago is actually creating a meeting, the EL specialists meet with all the emerging bilingual students, and that they set up very specific linguistic and academic goals. All the principals have already worked with the students to actually look at their academic progress. But one of the missing components was, let's also look at your linguistic goals, because if I'm Evelyn and if I made intermediate in speaking last year, how can I improve into advanced into this year? So those are the things that we're working on. Another big thing that we continue supporting the campuses is in supporting the teachers and showing them ways to how effectively incorporate those English linguistic proficiency standards, which are the state-required guidelines that support our students, but also how to support the students based on their proficiency level descriptors. One wonderful thing that happened actually this Monday was we had the opportunity for the first time to train the entire district in shelter instruction strategies. You will be able to see pictures maybe next week, but it was the benefit from that was that all our students, all our districts, our teachers were speaking pretty much the same language in terms of strategies. So we are not doing things in isolation. We want to make sure that all the strategies that we use are not only effective with our students, but with all students, with special education, regular students, low socioeconomic students, but at the same time that whatever we implement as a department, that is cohesive with what teaching and learning is doing. That's why we are constantly involved in everything that the planning, so that is a critical part of our support. Another thing that we are doing is that not only we provide training, but we're going to have follow-up with the teachers with modeling and rubrics and kind of showing them, because sometimes it's easy just to come and present something. But if at the end of the day I'm the teacher and I'm new, I don't know how that looks like in my 8th grade science class. They can say, can you come and show me, so we can do that for them as well. Also, we have been following the TEA implementation rubrics for programming. They have been very helpful in the way that we want to make sure that we're following the programs accordingly, not only for compliance, but for effectiveness. Another thing that we are working on is collaborating. The EL specialists, we have 7 right now, and they're working with the different campuses, not necessarily in looking into the overall goals, but every single one has very specific goals based on that campus needs. So pretty much it's customized based on the grade level on the campus needs, because every campus is a home and every home have a different need. So we want to make sure that the support that is provided is catered to that campus and those students' needs. Also, we don't wait into providing interventions for newcomers. We try to be proactive and starting right now. I mean, all those interventions have already started, and we are working with the ESL. We have a wonderful Mr. Tavares right here. He's amazing newcomer student for our middle school students. And also Dr. Whitback is the head ESL teacher at NHS, and our teams are working really hard with our newcomer students. And lastly, one of our things that we're working really hard this year is to improve that connection and participation with communication with the families of emerging bilinguals, because we know that the importance of their support in their children's education.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes.
Well, just not, I would like to know if you can give me an idea when you're talking about the shelter instruction training, the use of the 7-step thing.
Yes.
I'm kind of curious about it. Can you just say a little bit about that?
Yes. So shelter instruction is the required state, is what the state requires for all the, for the support for emerging bilinguals. However, if any one of the teachers here, or if anyone have you attend one of the actual shelter instruction, is very intense. So what we have done over the last 5 years is to take the best strategies from shelter instruction from Silas Education, and there are 7. So I am going to actually pass to Mr. Torres, if he can come. So he is one of our experts, because those 7-step strategies we have actually shared for the past 5 years, but I just want you to hear from one of our experts.
Good evening, President Irvin, board members, Superintendent Trujillo. 7 steps to a language-rich interactive classroom is for systemic change in the classroom. It involves using visuals, using language objectives in the classroom effectively, and using strategies to get students to read and write, make it intentional and meaningful. So it's 7 steps. You implement 1 through 4, which are not instructional. They are everyday good practices in the classroom. And then 5, 6, and 7, which are your reading, writing, and using language objectives to really target that instructional need in the classroom. So we made videos 3 years ago. We shared them on Eduphoria. We trained at McMichael and Moses last year. And then this year we bought Sidlets. And at Moses last year, we're glad to say that we made double-digit gains on our taper report card.
Awesome.
Wow.
So we are showing growth.
Good work.
And at McMichael.
That's awesome. That's good to hear.
And so we're on John Seidlet's list for districts to visit, and we're excited for him to come over.
Awesome.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Torres.
one last thing on the
Yes.
last bullet, I'm sorry, on the
You're
last
fine.
bullet. When you say improve home and school connection, does that include your Facebook page, the Hispanic Connection?
Yes.
And can you tell me a little bit how is that being really good?
Yes, and I actually have a slide, so that's going to answer your question. But one more thing that I wanted to share about the 7 steps that is originally with your question. The reason why we selected this is because it is so easy to use for the teachers, and it's so easily implement. And once again, it is helpful not only for emerging bilingual, but for all students, and that is the connection that we have for everyone else. So going back to your question, yes, well, I have a slide. Do you want me to skip the slide? Well, I just have one more, and then I can.
Okay, you do what you have to. I'm just curious.
Okay, because I actually, the last bullet actually talks about the improvement home school connection participation is actually a requirement from Title III. So it's not just because we want to provide that communication. It's actually a federal requirement that all bilingual programs must provide parent, family, and community engagement. Part of our funding comes from that, so we not only have to do it, we have to prove it. This is the bilingual exceptions and ESL waivers that we are expected to submit this year. In the first table, we have the bilingual certified classrooms. In the dark blue and in the light blue, we have the classrooms that will need a bilingual exception. You will see that by grade level and by campus. One of the things that I have to also mention that this is the year that we split our classrooms so we can, the families can have an opportunity to have a neighborhood opportunity and to be in a bilingual dual language classroom. We lost some teachers this year. We hired new teachers as well. So we will continue in providing support for the teachers so they can become bilingual certified. The other table shows the ESL waivers needed by campus, and those are just the number of classrooms per campus that will have emerging bilingual students, but their teachers are not ESL certified. And we're also making efforts to help and support, such as providing a district day so then they can actually go and take the test, and we do reimbursement for the cost of the test. and that's for both bilingual and ESL exams. This is our team. We could not do anything, or I could not do anything with them. We have EOS specialists. We have Ms. Montero, Ms. Carmen Cano, Ms. Maria Marquez, and 7 EOS specialists. Some of them are here today. Some of them were not able to come. So that's one of the biggest support for our team. This is our bilingual and ESL teachers for this year. This is one of our summer trainings. We try to provide not only support but also encouragement, because that is part of our efforts to retain them. So that's something that we work really hard. Part of our Title III initiatives, that is going back to Mr. Montoya's questions as far as how does that communication collaboration looks like. We were selected by Region 7, 1 out of 12 districts in the state of Texas, to participate in the Title III initiative and from that, we created the Hispanic Connection Committee, which is the focus for that committee is actually to meet once a month to look at the needs based from the perspective from the parents, community members. But not only that, to see how can we actually support them. It is one thing to say, I'm going to provide specific needs, but it's more valuable when the parents themselves tell us what do they need or how can we help. We also started our literacy workshops with Ms. Cano. And I believe I'm missing here. This is the one of the biggest, I'm going to say, success that we have had. It is that communication part. So we have been very active in the Nacogdoches ISD Español Facebook page. Not only our engagement has improved just 100% over the last 90 days, one of the jobs that we have is not only to communicate in their language to all our emerging bilingual families, but also we have the task of actually sharing every single Facebook page in the district. So from the athletics department, from the fine arts, from the actual Facebook, so we share every single post that is being up there and we translate it in Spanish. So in one side, our emerging bilinguals are get to see all the different Facebook pages, including campus Facebook page and sports from our district. So that's something that has been very effective to communicate with our parents. And lastly, so you're cordially invited to our next 2 Title III events. One is going to be tomorrow at My Michael Elementary. It's our Heritage Festival. From 5:30 to 7:30, and we're also going to be participating in Dia de los Muertos in November 5th. And that's all from me. Do you have any questions?
I have another
Yes.
question. When you talk about a migrant student and an immigrant student, I know different, but does the migrant student also qualify as an immigrant if because they've both been here 3 years, right? I mean, is that...
No. So if you can see, so the migrant students are in Texas we have a very specific kind of tracking system. The support that they receive and even the funding is higher. So every time we have a migrant family moving from, even across states, we get a call from Region 7 because it's our center, and then we, Maria Marquez is in charge, and we make contact with the parents. We ask them what they need because it's pretty much they're new to the town, and sometimes they stay with us 3 months, 5 months, depending. Sometimes they leave. Now, the difference with immigrant students are just newly arrived students that were born out of the U.S. and have been here for less than 3 years. The state also has a different funding for them, and the reason is that the state knows that a lot of them, their families are going to require higher assistance.
Thank you.
I don't know if I answered your question.
Ms. Salcedo, if those migrant students who come here, we inform Region 7, correct?
So we communicate with them, but we serve them. So we have connection with the parents.
If they depart us, do we report where they gone?
Yes, that communication is constant. We must have a really high, pretty much we cannot lose any families. So we always have to track them. And the parents know because they understand the support that we can provide. So if they go tomorrow, we immediately notify. That's why we have to keep track, Maria Marquez have to keep track when every time a student withdraws, and we have called them as migrant, we have to communicate with that, communicate with the parent and ask them so we can follow up with them.
Thank you.
Dr. Sauceda, I just want to thank you, and I want to thank all the staff, because I know they're highly committed to providing the best services for our kids in this district, and I applaud you because you guys are worth your weight in gold. Thank you so much.
Dr. Sauceda, I also wanted to mention, I think I've got this right. Don't we have a new club at the high school that actually got to present a Duke and Duchess at homecoming?
Yes,
I can't
Soy
remember the name.
Club. It is students from another Origin. They actually made the name in Spanish, but it has a very difficult translation in English, but it's the Soy Club. Yes, and that is really exciting too, because the newcomers feel included. Dr. Wayback is doing a wonderful job in including the students in different activities at the high school level.
Adquirir es suceder. Mis héroes son los que ayuden los necesitados en nuestra comunidad, no solamente en las escuelas, las familias también. Los que por el sudor de frente trabajan y ayudan y son profesionales, compasivos y de corazón sincero. Doy gracias por cada uno. Gracias.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will now hear from Dr. Groman for the TASB Conference Delegation Assembly.
I hope in English.
Okay, who wants this in English?
Please.
Okay, so we're going to start this off in a fun way. How many have ever been on a teeter-totter? Raise your hand. Well, not very many of you, huh? Okay, well now, teeter-totters are really fun if you're the one that pushes the other people to the top and holds them up there, right? Until they jump off and you get slingshot, right? Well, I went to a meeting. It's the TASB, and what is that? Well, that's the teeter-totter. We have superintendents and board members, and this is like an equal out meeting to where we're all trying to do the same thing together, and so that's quite interesting, but it's very educational. And I just went to like, well, there were like, I don't know, 100 classes, and I took a bunch of them. And I can't tell you about all those because we don't have time. But I can tell you that also at the end of this meeting, I did go to a meeting at 7:30 one morning, and there weren't a lot of people there, but the people who really like to work get up at 7:30 to learn. And that's what y'all do with our bilinguals. Y'all work early and late. So I'm trying to get to the point where we get to the delegate convention. They voted me to be the representative delegate for Nacogdoches ISD. And so I represented y'all. And there were only like 56 different propositions, things to vote on. And so I have a list here, and I can go through all of those if you'd like. But basically, we talked these things out. And what's really important in this teeter-totter, this is not just a teeter-totter of superintendents and school board members. This is a teeter-totter of the very smallest schools, small schools, middle-sized schools, and the giant schools. We have schools with 50,000 students. And their needs and their wants are different than what we need and want. And that's why we always need to have a voice in this when we vote on these things, because it's applied across the board. So we were represented, and I'm glad that I got the chance to do it. But see, next year we have people here that are going to want to go and represent us and do our best to continue to fight for all of our students and our teachers and our administrators so that our schools can improve. Just like on our STAR test, are we improving? And yes, we've improved a lot, particularly since Dr. Trujillo has been here. So great leaders mean great successes and progress, and that's what we saw That's what I saw in taking classes and being your delegate. So thanks for inviting me to be your delegate, and I'll be happy to be the alternate next year, or I'll just won't do it at all. If 2 people want to go, then I'll be just sitting back and watching you and cheering you on, because it's a truly democratic and interesting thing to be involved in. So I hope you're a little more careful when you do your teeter-tottering in the future, just up and down, up and down.
Thank you, Dr. Groman. Ms. Winslow, what is your pleasure?
Oh, I move that we adjourn.
I second.
It has both been moved and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
So be it.